shows lean left, some lean right, but we lean local and business. This is North Georgia Business RadioX with Phil Bonelli. For the next hour, we will celebrate the businesses in our area and the people that run them. Find us on Facebook at North Georgia Business RadioX and online at northgeorgiabusinessradiox.com. Now, here's Phil Bonelli.
Hey kids, if you're like me, as you're working on your goals for 2025 in your business and in life, you're still pretty amped up, and that fits in well with our guest today because we are honored to have here in the Northeast Georgia Health System studios Miss April Rooks of AMPED Kids. April, welcome to the show.
Hey, Philip.
We also, along with April, we have a stupendous, really not a guest. Is family a guest? I don't think so. But we have a member of the Business RadioX family.
He's the Jack Partier, Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
Is it that uncle you don't see very often? He kind of comes around every once in a while.
But you love it when you do. You love it when you do. We've got Mr. Beau Henderson of Rich Life Advisors, a great friend of mine, partner in the show, the original host of the show, and also just a very sharp guy and an excellent businessman and entrepreneur and implementer of entrepreneurial systems. So welcome both of you to the show.
Good to be here.
I'm excited to be here. You notice April already set the tone. She made this real formal. She said, I'm glad to be here, Philip. So
I noticed that.
It's going to be a good show. If we start with that,
it got real.
It's going to be, it's like, you come say James.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Next time I'll say Yo Phil.
Yo Phil. That sounds better.
Yeah, I like
Sometimes we rap on the show, April. Beau is a huge fan of AMPED Kids. I'm a huge fan of what you do. I'm going to describe what I think of when I think of AMPED Kids, and then I want you to fill in the details. But April's a tremendous musician and a tremendous songwriter, and she has formed a awesome nonprofit which serves kids using the tool of songwriting and helping empower kids, helping them work through issues by teaching them songwriting, empowering them to go do that. And it's amazing. And there's so many ways to serve folks in this world. And it's beautiful to see folks using the gifts and talents God gave them to do that. And you certainly are.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
When did you start AMPED Kids?
We launched AMPED Kids in 2018. Just after the fall of 2017, I was a part of the Hall Dawson Casablanca event at the Chattahoochee Country Club here in Gainesville, and heard a young lady share her story about how during her time of foster care, music was what helped her to get through that really dark time in her life. And I sat in the back of the room with tears streaming down my face and resonating with her story of some very dark moments in my life, being someone who had been through some childhood trauma, also a domestic violence survivor, and realizing, I always kind of knew intrinsically how important music was to me, but that was one of those kind of light bulb moments for myself of realizing just how instrumental music had been for me. And it was a call at that moment to now find a way for me to impart the things that I had been through and take my over 20 years of teaching vocal and piano lessons and working with kids in church ministries and be able to take that to another level and helping kids that are in foster care who are suffering from the effects of trauma. And then later we would expand to serve adopted youth and at-risk youth. Again, children that have been through trauma, neglect, abuse, and can benefit from the therapeutics of music.
I love that. You were at an event. God pulled your heartstrings. You felt a call, and that piece really probably not that unique. Lots of people get a great idea in a high emotional moment of inspiration. But the unique part is that you then did something with it and made it happen. How long did this take? What were the first steps that you took once you felt this call? How did you get it started?
So October of 2017 was the event day, the event period. And I used to work with Beau with Rich Life Advisors, and during that time, I did a coaching program with the Soul Purpose Institute and Steve D'Annunzio, and he had this phenomenal book, The Soul Paradigm. And am I saying that right, Beau?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And I went back to this book and I really began to kind of delve into that personally to say, okay, where do I go from here? I have this nudge, I have this idea, and so my gifts in life are music and teaching. And when I went back to that, I just began to pray on that, and then to have some conversations with like Connie Stevens, who was the Hall Dawson CASA director for many years, the newer director that had come on board, and then just some other people, even family members, to say, hey, I have this really crazy idea. Do you think it would work? And if we do this, how do we actually implement it so that it is a successful program? Because I'm a musician and a teacher, but I don't know anything about the foster care system. I don't understand all of the ins and outs of being a social worker. So who do we team up with, and how do we move forward to put all of the pieces in place to be able to connect with the kids and to be able to find the kids who resonate with music, who love music, and want to be involved with our various programs. And so it was March of 2018 that I actually went, February of 2018, that I went to the North Georgia Community Foundation because I had learned about their fiscal sponsorship program. And I said, well, we could actually go ahead and launch this quickly by coming under their 501c3 umbrella, having a fund set up there. And so we had our launch party in May of 2018, raised some funds. By the end of the year, already had students coming into the programs. And by the end of 2019, had already served almost 100 children through private music lessons and other things that we were doing in the community. And that was just here in Hall County and kind of the surrounding areas. And now we're all over the state of Georgia.
All right. Let me break down a little bit of the highlights of this master class, which was April Rooks starting AMP Kids. She had an idea. She was at an event. She felt a high emotional call and had this, hey, I know what my gifts and talents are. I see what this need is and how my gifts and talents could serve. She immediately, I don't know if you noticed this, using the word we. Right away, she said we. She immediately said, here is what I have. I'm going to ask some trusted advisors. I'm going to share my vision, because she on day one knew she was not fully equipped to execute the vision. And that's always because you're one person. You're an extremely talented and energetic person, but it all takes a team to make anything happen. So you went and started speaking to other people and said, what am I missing? What are some things that could help me achieve this vision? You brought on a team. Immediately, you look for strengths you didn't have. And that is such a key, folks. So many times when we have a vision or an idea, we get bogged down in what we don't know and thinking we have to figure it all out. No, you don't. Other people have things figured out. Go and talk to them. And even just using the community foundation, you could have spent 8 or 10 months wading through paperwork and thinking, I have to become a 501c3 right now. No, you don't. Go to the Community Foundation. They helped you out. They're great, and they are a wonderful educational resource. So she built a team, looked for advice, had the confidence in her abilities match with the humility of what her limitations were that we all have, and she got this thing rocking and started serving kids. Now, let me ask you this. When you started in just 4 months, wow, did you know everything you know today?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. But how much of it could you really have learned? You probably knew 10% of what you know now because you weren't doing it yet. So that, if you take nothing else away, folks, take your vision, build a team, and start. She started right away, and there's a big difference when having an idea and serving that first kid. Go sell the first widget, serve the first kid, do the thing. All right, I'm so pumped up. I'm amped up. We're going to hop right back in after this break on North Georgia Business Radio X. Welcome back to the show. I am your amped host, Phil Bonelli. I'm just going to ride that pony till it just stops running. But I'm your amped up host today, Phil Bonelli, here with the one and only April Rooks of Amped Kids and my co-host, Mr. Beau Henderson, Rich Life. Beau, you are a great business person and very entrepreneur, having ideas, getting things started, systematizing it, getting it moving. Listening to April's story of just doing a killer job of starting Amped Kids, what are some things that stood out to you about that?
Yeah, you had a good summary, Phil, that one was this idea of having an idea and communicating the idea, right? Because if you can share a vision, then you can find people that say, you know what, I like that too. I believe in that too. And it helps too if it's something you really believe in, because people can pick up on that energy. And then that other thing, that follow up with just getting started, success loves movement, right? You could have spent years, to your point, getting everything perfect to launch, and you never would have launched. But helping that first kid, that kind of creates a feedback loop that reinforces, I want to help 5 kids. I want to help 100 kids. I want to see how much impact I can have with this. So that kind of success loves. And then momentum. Success loves momentum too, if I could follow, because just getting that boulder moving, I think a lot of people just never get it on the other side of the hill, so to speak. So, and you guys know, I'm a big fan of April's and what she's been doing, but it's just another example of living a best version of yourself by taking, here's the things I've been gifted with, and I'm going to use it to have an impact on others, and especially in this case that may not have a voice themselves, right? And I could keep going, but I'm gonna let's keep going, Phil. But okay, I will keep going, right?
Do it.
So one last thing with that too, as I'm thinking about this, is when you're talking about kids, precious kids. We all have kids, right? And sometimes, I know I spoil my daughter. I know I was blessed in a lot of ways. We've all had challenges and things, but I also know that there's some kids that never had a person show up and say, I think you're worth spending 30 minutes with. I think you're valuable enough to invest in. And the longer you're around it, and I know April can back this up, for some kids, that's the difference in their life turning out well and them in prison or worse.
Right.
Right. So I just I get passionate about this kids thing because it's just such a time where you just never know if that little bit of encouragement, you'll hear people all the time tell their stories about, there's this guy back when I was in 2nd grade that said, hey, you're worth something. And that guy probably has no idea, doesn't remember.
He didn't remember what he said.
But it sets the path. So I love the work, and again, just seeing April live a version of herself in service to others, right? Impact with great hair. Ooh. I mean, even better. So, Amped Kids is all over the state now, you said.
That's right.
Wow, tell us the scope. What all is Amped Kids doing? We heard this Genesis story that was not very long ago. What does Amped Kids look like today?
So we, after COVID kind of put a halt on things for certain, we then began pretty quickly recovering in 2021, and we had our first talent show that year right here in Gainesville at the Olympic Park rowing venue, which was phenomenal. We continue to do that annually, where we have kids that literally come from different parts of the state. We began working with a group home that first year in Brunswick, Georgia, that brought a group of kids up from the foster home for the talent show, and then we have continued to now we've got a great group home that we've worked with for a number of years, providing them with lessons and songwriting workshops, and they've participated in talent shows, our gala, different things in Rome, Georgia. And so we're just slowly, as we, as people are connected with us through our partnerships with DFACS, AmeriGroup, Family Connections, just different organizations that we're partnering with, we're able to connect with kids that have a love for music and be able to meet them where they are. And that's why a lot of times when I talk to people, they're like, wow, you do a lot. And we do offer a lot of programs, which can kind of be complex, and complicated sometimes in providing that. But we want to be able to meet a child where they're at, because where we might have one student or child that's interested in being a piano student, well, you may have another child who's interested in, being production and engineer, recording engineer. And so how do we help them? So, for example, in 2020, we put a small recording studio into a group home and in Forsyth County, so not too far from here. And then we do songwriting mentorships with some youth, and now we're expanding. Last year we expanded and we started working with the Gainesville City Schools right here and being a part of their mental health summit. So we're also working to advocate and educate on music as a therapeutic and why music isn't just an entertainment. And we did a show on that previously, but it's so important for our children to be, and our families to be educated on why it matters. Why does music matter? How is it helping with the child abuse and neglect and the trauma that we're seeing 5 years down the road now, or even 20 to 30 or 50 years down the road in the life of a child? That matters. And then I will also give a little shout out here to our Nashville chapter that we started a couple of years ago. So we've got some students up there. And then we just received the ACM Lifting Lives grant and we're going to be providing some music therapy in the Nashville area this year as well. So we got a lot going on, and it definitely keeps us busy. But again, my heart is to provide what we can to reach a child wherever they are in that moment.
I love it. And music is so powerful. It's just amazing across all sorts of things. There's this article in National Geographic like a couple of years ago, and it was about, this is a tangent, but it's too interesting. Cheese is made from different little microorganisms, and
big fan of cheese here.
Come on now. Yeah. I mean,
three thumbs up, hands up.
And they did a experiment on playing different kinds of music, different genres, and which made the cheese turn out the best. And actually, 90s hip hop did. Tribe Called Quest. Cheese, I don't know if it was right on richness or what, but if you want the rich life, cheese has got to be a part of that.
100%. Now, one time I was being interviewed about this book or something, and somebody was like, if you're trapped on an island, what's the one thing you couldn't live without food-wise? And what popped into my mind, so ridiculous, almonds and cheddar cheese.
Oof. Those good fats, baby. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes
healthy
sense.
omegas.
Good fats.
You got to get the good fats, April. You got to have them. All right, so I would love to share, before we talk about some other things, ways that people can give. If I'm listening and I'm like, wow, this mission is so cool, I know nothing about music, where can they go give? And I also would like to share, if your heartstrings are pulled and you're like, I want to do more philanthropically, but I'm not in a position to do that. Do you have a financial plan? Do you have goals? Do you have the world-class advice you need? Because again, right here, we have our co-host, Beau Henderson of Rich Life Advisors. And that's what they do, is they help you get the rich life across all the things that means for you.
This conversation came up earlier is, what is retirement? What is financial planning? You think of spreadsheets, numbers, and math. Recently had a great conversation with Daniel Crosby. He's a behavioral finance guy that's kind of well known in those circles. And he said, the data shows money. We kind of knew this, but I like when the data backs up, shows there's actually 3 things you can buy once you have enough, like you're comfortable and healthy. Relationships, time with people, experiences, and your health. Mm-hmm. So what's that look like for you? And then that's what your money should be a tool, your assets should be a tool to move towards that.
That's right. Do you have great relationships, and do you have enough to purchase sharp cheddar cheese and almonds to enjoy with them?
A lifetime supply if you get stuck on a desert island.
And then you're good. All right, we're going to pick back up with AMP Kids after this break on North Georgia Business Radio.
You got those almonds?
Steve and Ashley finally got their twins to sleep through the night. But the thought of saving for 2 college tuitions kept them up at night. That's why they decided to meet with their Regions banker to build a Regions Green Print plan, a financial roadmap personalized for what matters most to them. Now Steve and Ashley are confident in reaching their goals for today and tomorrow. Start building your financial confidence with a Regions Green Print plan. It's free, and it's only from Regions Bank. Visit regions.com to find a branch near you. Regions Bank, member FDIC.
Welcome back to the show. I am your happy and still amped up host, Phil Bonelli, here at North Georgia Business RadioX, and I've got my good pal, April Rooks, amazing songstress, voice like an angel, go-getter, making it happen, director of Amped Kids, and then, of course, my ho-host, entrepreneur extraordinaire, business leader, Mr. Beau Henderson, Rich Life Advisors, lover of almonds and good cheese.
That's almonds, cheese, and I need some sunglasses because when we were talking about April, that halo was getting really bright over here on this side of the studio.
It's palpable. It is palpable. It sure is.
Next time, let's have some charcuterie, shall we?
When
we do this,
game on. Game on.
That should be a tradition right there.
That's right. And we'll just have it here on the table with us, and we could just toss some salami and olives over there to Bill so he could get his.
There you go.
I love it. All right. I really am inspired. I do love the start, how you got going, because I want the listeners of the show, I always want them to really just be inspired by the great work that's going on, for-profit, not-for-profit, and to learn lessons that they could use, because I imagine there's folks out there who are running businesses and we've all got things to learn. But I imagine there's a contingent of folks who they have a dream. They have their amped kids, and they haven't been the April Rooks yet that just went and got it done. So I want them to learn things to help them get going. As you look back, again, you had passion and vision. You recognized what your unique strengths and talents were. You built a team of other folks who had strengths you didn't have and that you might not even have known you needed. And then you started and haven't stopped, and you've been very open to partnerships. So you've done so many things well. When you look back to starting it and the time since then, what are some things you might have done different? If you were going to talk to April in 2018, what are some lessons you would look back and share?
And add on to that while you're processing, April, everything did go perfectly smooth. No setbacks, obstacles, right?
Correct.
Okay, we'll proceed. Right.
Yes, definitely. Everything went smoothly. I'm a very collaborative leadership style, and I value, as you said, people who know things I don't know. On the other side of that, I am also that person that has that attitude of do something, right? Because so many people will have an idea or a thought, and they might write it down. I was talking to somebody the other day who was sharing how they had a child that kind of came up with this really cool idea, and it went nowhere. And they really had hoped that they would patent this idea because it was a really neat idea. And so that's really easy for us to do in life. And there's a lot of different things that cause that. That could be fear, could be timing, could be money, a number of factors. But there's a really great song. Speaking of music, and this song really spoke to me in my life back just a few years before this. It was a song called "Do Something." Do you remember that song? It's by a Christian artist, not Matt Maher. I'm not thinking of his name right now.
Sing some of it for us.
I don't know if I can do that at this moment, but he just says, don't just see something happening, right? And just walk the other way. Do something. Like that's our life. We should do something. So for me, I saw this. I did one thing that I will say is I initially looked to see and did some research. Is there an organization out there who's doing this already?
Very wise. That you could tap into. You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yes. And because it's much harder to start something. It's harder to get, the ball rolling on a brand new idea. And so after I did some research, there was, maybe there was a program out in Texas, I forget the name of it, that was, doing something, but not the same idea that we had. There was one small studio in Alabama, so I wanted something. The vision I had was not just for one area, but that we could serve kids all over the state of Georgia eventually. So with that being said, I think that one of the things that I would have done a little differently would have been to have gone ahead and done a little more pre-planning in the early stages to set up more partnerships and relationships in the different areas across Georgia. kind of how our model has been as we have had the need and the growth, we expanded, which has been fine and it's worked. However, in retrospect, I could see that if we would have had some of those more partnerships across the state in different areas and within some of the different foster care systems and done a little bit more time delving into the foster care system, because oh boy, is it kind of like a rabbit hole of all of these different organizations, and it's a little complicated to try to navigate some of that. So that took us a little more lengthier a bit of time than it could have maybe if we'd have done a little bit of that work ahead. But however, you don't know what you don't know, and so but we do have that foresight that, hey, if we continue to expand as an organization, if that's what happens in the future, then now we can go, okay, let's strategize this way versus what we were doing previously.
I love it. It sounds like just more partnerships, broader partnerships sooner.
Yes, absolutely. And along with that comes the funding. Because the funding is a crucial part, obviously, of the programs, making sure that you have the right financial partners in place along with the actual agency partners and community partners to be able to make the program successful, and to make sure that there's not a strain on the organization, that you are confident in what you're doing, and that if you want to expand and you want to do some new programs here, within the year, then you have the bandwidth to do that.
Amen. Speaking of funding, if I'm out there listening and I say, I want to give to Amped Kids right now, where can I go do that? Do I go to ampedkids.org? What do I do? Where can I go swipe my card?
Yes, ampedkids.org.
All right.
It's a great place to start. You can donate. And there's multiple ways that you can donate. I mean, again, if it's $25, $10, whatever that is, every little bit adds up and it counts and makes a difference. We also have an opportunity for you to give monthly. Monthly donors are really a strength for nonprofits and helps us to be able to provide, to have funding obviously throughout the entire year. And then we have an opportunity to sponsor a child. And to sponsor a child is where you as a donor, you get to invest in the life of a child by sponsoring a year of lessons, piano, voice, guitar, drums, whatever that might be, lessons, and providing them with an instrument and any instruction materials that they need, because our programs are completely free. They're zero cost to the families.
How beautiful.
Break that down though, April. So what does that look like? Because a lot of times somebody's like, oh, I'm passionate about kids, love music, I like what she's talking about, but I don't know, should I do 20? Is that enough? How do you do, what's it cost if I say, hey, you know what, I'm going to help one kid this year? Do you have it kind of priced?
Yes. Okay. So the sponsorship for that is $100 a month, which is $1,200 a year on average. And again, that's providing everything that they need within the program.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. And but we have some people that say, hey, I can be a $25 a month donor. That's very feasible for me, and that's helping to provide instruments for the children in our programs. So, and along with the support that we have from grant funding and things of that nature that all come together and work to, to support different programs. We also, like I said, we have our talent show. We give continuing education funds every year to kids from the talent show because, and I'm really passionate about this. For many people, they don't know that the graduation rate for kids that are in foster care is incredibly low. You wouldn't even believe the number. Anytime when I am in front of a group, I will ask them, what's your guess, right, of the graduation rate among foster kids? And usually they'll say 40, 50, and I'm like, nope, it's lower. It's lower than that. And their eyes just kind of get bigger. So the latest number that I have from one of our state representatives is 18%.
18%.
18%. So that's a crisis. And that's why we see so many kids that are in foster care dealing with the consequences of that.
All right, let's pick back up on more ways that you are helping alleviate that after this break on North Georgia Business Radio. Welcome back to the Northeast Georgia Health System studio. I am your happy and amped up host, Phil Bonelli. It's easy to be amped up when you're here soaking in the awesomeness that is April Rooks. I mean, truly, it is. And of course, having Beau Henderson, CEO, entrepreneur extraordinaire, helping you to live the rich life, the founder of Rich Life Advisors. It's just a great crew in the studio. I knew about AMPED Kids. I've known you for a while, and but hearing the backstory has me really, truly so amped up for a number of reasons. And we've talked about things in generality. So if I'm out there listening, I'm like, okay, I get it. It helps kids in foster care. Obviously, you can't share names, but could you share kind of more some like tangible stories of some lives that have been changed and improved through AMPED Kids?
Yes, and one particular story comes to mind. I love sharing Addie's story. Addie actually entered our programs through our talent show, which I love because when that happens with our kids, it's so amazing because they come in and they realize what we're doing and then they want to do other stuff, right? So the talent show is a good entry for them. But she came in and as a part of our talent show a few years ago, and right away that night, by the way, Bill Main was hosting it and he does, or emceeing it. He does a wonderful job. And so he did a really good job of talking, with her and asked her, what does this mean to you? And she shares how that she feels like she can sing about the things she just doesn't want to talk about that have happened in her life, right? So after that, she lives down in the Warner Robins area. So we didn't have an instructor there. So I began working with her doing virtual voice lessons and really got to know Addie and her mom and family. She has a sister that was adopted from the foster care system and 3 other adopted siblings. And so it's just a wonderful story and family that she has, but she still is struggling with a lot of the things that have happened in her life. And so she began working on the song, and her mother had come up with some lyrics, and I told her I would help her on putting this song together. So as we began to work on this and go through this really impactful story about how she wanted her life to look growing up and what she wanted her dad to be and how it didn't turn out that way. And then she closes with the part about her mother adopting her, but in the end, when you listen to this chorus, and hopefully she's going to get it recorded soon so you can hear it. But she says, "I owe it all to you," both to her biological dad, who let her down. And then also to her adopted mother. So anyway, as she began to work on that song and we were completing that, she had a real emotional moment. And we just had a time after that where we stopped and we talked about life. And I said, the thing is, Addie, that many of us, whether we're foster kids or we're raised by our biological parents, oftentimes we suffer or we're sad or depressed in life because life didn't look like the way that we wanted it to look, right? So, but every day and right now you have the power and the ability to write a new blueprint for your life. And so following that, her mother shared how that Addie was now talking during her counseling sessions and went on to this was early last year after our gala, and Addie performed her song or 2 years ago. But anyway, she shares that she said, where I saw her being a victim and still in this victimhood, she went, since she's been in the AMP Kids program for now, it was at that time maybe 8-9 months. She says, I've watched her from being a victim to now being a survivor.
Wow.
Yeah, so just seeing those transformations that happen, and that's one story. We have many stories of kids that have their lives have been transformed through the power of music, giving them a voice, helping them to connect with their feelings and emotions. Because, many of us as adults, we struggle with a lot of junk and a lot of things from our childhood, and we've got our own stories. It's hard enough for us to talk about it, but much more for a child to be able to connect with these hard feelings and these difficult things in life. But music gives us this really open space and this non-judgmental place, right? To be able to say, okay, this is how I'm feeling, and I don't have to talk about it, but let me sing that, or let me beat it out on a drum, you know, and just get that out of, because if what we internalize in our lives, that will then in turn into mental health issues, physical health issues, because we don't need to hold things inside. We need to have a good and a safe place to let it all out.
Get it out. How beautiful. And when you started this, you saw a need and you wanted to serve, and you are serving. And we could fill up a month's worth of shows with these stories. But think about this, folks. The more that you serve, April used the unique gifts and talents she had. She brought in partners, which is very enriching and fulfilling. Sometimes can be frustrating, as all human relationships can be. And she is serving all these people. But I'd love for you to think about, what has this to you personally? How much has it blessed you to be able to use your gifts and talents to serve all these kids?
Well, I recently told someone that, first of all, I feel like this is my life's work. I've always been a singer. I've always knew that I would, be involved in music, but I felt in my younger years that I was going to do something different. And I've still kind of done that, but I never thought I would start a nonprofit. I never thought I would be in this position. So what it means to me, though, particularly, is that a couple of years ago, there was a book introduced to me called The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, who is a doctor and who was just really cutting edge with helping veterans with PTSD many years ago. And it was such a phenomenal book. And it gave me a lot of insight into all of the different effects that abuse and neglect and trauma have on children and adults, and it helped me to kind of process all that I was doing, because sometimes you're busy in the doing and even teaching or working with kids in the programs, and then I really stopped to go, okay, wow, and I see all these things happening with the kids, and then I went, oh wow, it's happening for me. That when we start giving and we start serving others, then it will heal parts of us. It will grow parts of us that needed that. And that's the beauty of it, is, give and you will receive, right? You don't give to receive. Right. You give because you have a heart of service and you want to have compassion and help another human being. But then when you do, how that will come back to you 100-fold. Yep.
Don't seek ease and, happiness. Seek using your gifts and talents to serve. And that can be through a nonprofit endeavor. I mean, just think, Beau, you've got a lot of gifts and talents. How fulfilling is it for you to help people really gain financial freedom and all that can come with that?
Live the best version of themselves, right? What kind of gift is that to your family, your community, ultimately the world, right? Because so many times, and April, thank you for kind of giving another example. I think we get so busy, careers, hobbies, kids, grandkids, we're kind of sleepwalking. And plug in. And one thing I think is important too is April gave an example of stepping up and running this. You don't have to start your nonprofit, but find something you resonate with and plug in. Plug in. This is everybody, but a lot of the research I've done on retirement is one of the keys to longer health, happiness is engaged living, being part of something, being engaged to something, being active with something. So find your thing. And maybe for some of you listening, it's, hey, I like this thing April's building. I'm sure, April, you have volunteer opportunities, all kinds of things that aren't financial, of people that just want to be around this and support this vision.
Yes, absolutely. We're always looking for volunteers, whether it's to work with programs with kids or help with fundraisers or, whatever that looks like. And honestly, that's how I started in my young life, was always having these opportunities, whether it was in the church that I was a part of or my dad doing different ministries, a part of his, church growing up and different things. And I learned that you always have something to give. Now, it might not be financial, and there are times in my life as a single mother and different, times where I didn't really have money to give, but I could give of my time and my energy and talent. And I always did that. And I believe that if we're faithful with the little bit that we have, and again, even if it's a little talent, even if it's, whatever that is, if we're faithful with a little, then we'll be entrusted with much more in our lives. And I feel like in my life that I hope to also be to impart that into our kids, because we have them to actually go out. Like we've got them we're gonna have some kids performing for a Rich Life event coming up in April, and we give them that opportunity to give back because there's power in that.
Amen. Listen, folks, I hope that you've been as blessed and inspired by April and AMP Kids as I have. Go and pursue your passion. Serve other people with the gifts and talents you have. Bring in partners. You don't have to do it all yourself, but go and get started. Get that momentum going. Thanks for joining us, April and Beau.
It's an honor to be here.
Always too much fun.
You've been listening to North Georgia Business Radio X with Phil Bonelli. What local business do you know that should be highlighted on our program? Let us know. Just search North Georgia Business Radio X on Facebook or contact Beau at businessradiox.com. See you next time, and remember to support our local businesses.